Hello and welcome to this review of my Weytec Smart Touch. It's been a while since I covered a battlecruiser keyboard. This was a donation from Weytec Switzerland, which is where their headquarters are. I've previously done 2 reviews on their older model, the MK06, the second of which was a donation from their UK division after they spotted my original video, and when their headquarters found out about those videos, they reached out to me to review this newer model. The MK06 has been discontinued for a while now, so they sent me a giant box full of stuff to get it running, and now I finally get to show it to you. Some background info: Weytec is a multinational company specializing in integrated IT solutions. Specifically, they design whole work floors, and we're not talking linoleum here. They basically sell entire trading floors, security stations, traffic and air traffic control rooms, that sort of thing, all around the globe, and the idea is that they design IT systems that run all of this for their customers. In this way, you end up with servers and terminals and control systems and whatnot all integrated into one system. As you can probably tell, this sort of stuff is kind of above my level of techno understanding. The Smart Touch is really just a tiny cog in a big machine here, but it is a rather important one because it functions as a kind of central control point for a lot of systems simultaneously, so it's cool to take a look at it. Because it has to be able to manage so many things at once, this is quite a high-spec device, and way above and beyond what the vast majority of consumers would need in a keyboard, but is necessary to make it usable in the type of complicated systems that Weytec design. So before I kick off the review, I want to remind people that this is really not intended for the mass market, and it comes with a few drawbacks that aren't really an issue for its intended target audience, but which are a bit inconvenient, or over the top at least, for Luddites like me who aren't going to use 99% of its functionality. For example, it's pretty complicated to set up on your own. It comes with a metric fuck ton of cables, which create a rather messy situation on a simple office desk like mine, and it also comes with a big and heavy PSU and KVM, whose admittedly impressive cooling fan makes a howling noise that's louder than my entire PC put together. But like I said, on something like a trading floor, this really wouldn't be an issue, plus the cool functionalities of the keyboard make it worth the trouble, so I'm really glad they approached me. It's got a wild array of features, including customizable macropad modules, quick-release keyboard panels for hygienic purposes, a huge selection of interfaces and ports, including USB, serial, Ethernet with PoE+, HDMI, DisplayPort, audio and video ports, etc., motion and light sensors on both sides of the keyboard, and it's also capable of controlling up to 16 workstations at once. Probably the most eye-catching feature of the keyboard is the massive screen in the middle though, which is a 1280 by 800 pixel 10-inch LCD, or in imperial units. Wait. Now, Weytec were nice enough to pre-install it with my YouTube channel artwork, which I think is pretty awesome, but you can customize the living shit out of all of this. God knows how, but you can. It also seems to know what time and date it is, even though I didn't set it. It's more accurate than my own clock even. Well, I guess that's something you can definitely trust the Swiss to do properly. Like I said, the screen is also a touch screen, and it comes pre-installed with some default hotkeys, such as the F keys. It does also have physical F keys, and some shortcuts including media keys, which work very well. You can customize all these buttons, including the functions, icons, color, etc. to hell and back again, as well as a ton of things more through this customization menu. I mean, Jesus Christ. Look at all this crap you can do here, man. It's they kind of overkill there. And it includes some really funky things like this mode, which disables the keyboard for 2 minutes so you can clean it, plus a whole bunch of things and features that I can't even begin to cover. You can also do the macro programming from this menu through this option here. It has a headphone port in it on the back so that you can communicate through it. I understand there's also a video mode for it, and you can even get television, but it's also got 2 speakers in the front. Pretty cool nowadays, I reckon. Imagine having Teams meetings where you can watch the session on your keyboard. I don't think it's got a microphone of its own, by the way, but you can plug a microphone into it. And yes, I did ask whether you can play Doom on it, and apparently it's capable of displaying any video input according to Weytec themselves, although I'm not entirely sure how I'd set that up in this case, nor if the keyboard itself is capable of running it. If anyone can help me play Doom on this thing, that would be the tits. Hit me up. would be a cool idea for a follow-up video or something. It's also got 2 expansion slots here. In my case, it comes with 2 black macro pads, one with 16 small keys and one with 8 large ones for an extra 24 macro keys in addition to the ones on the screen. They can do any variation of these custom keycaps, whatever configuration you wish basically, as well as other types of modules. One of the keys has a green secondary deal legend on it, hinting at a trading floor model, although I think a real trading floor model would have considerably more legends on it, as those platforms like the Bloomberg or Refinitiv systems tend to have huge amounts of hotkeys, but this is probably just a stem cell model as it has barely any special legends on it. And that brings me to one of the actual weaknesses of the keyboard, the keycaps. They're pad-printed thin ABS, which is basically the cheapest and arguably the shittiest option that you can get. The tops aren't fully flat, thankfully, but they're a long way from the GMK double shots you used to get on the older MK06. It's kind of amusing to me that such a high-end keyboard can come with such crappy, cheap keycaps. Similar to many other Rennie keyboards, the key spacing is rather small, so it's very easy to make typing mistakes on it. I really do wish we could get rid of Rennie keycaps. It's 100% form at the cost of function, and considering how big this keyboard is, who are we really kidding about saving space or height? Also, if you're a bit vigorous with the keyboard, the keycaps can come off pretty easy. I've had this about 3 or 4 times during the testing period. The switches are a similar story. They're just scissor switches over rubber domes, unfortunately, and they're not very good or comfortable. Again, this seems to be a cheapification because the MK06 had Cherry MX clear switches, which, although I'm not a big fan of them, is still way better than crappy rubber domes. I mean, I guess this isn't aimed at keyboard enthusiasts, so I understand why they did it, because low-profile scissor switches like this are super popular nowadays. But to me it feels pretty lame. It's like typing on a very large laptop keyboard, and that's not a compliment. In a bout of extreme irony, the macropads do use mechanical key switches, and, again ironically, the keycaps on those are much thicker and made by GMK, although they are still ABS. But funniest of all is that the switches are Cherry ML, which are absolutely terrible. They feel a lot cleaner than the rubber dome switches on the main keyboard though, which is definitely saying something. Overall, I'd say that the keycaps and the switches are by far the weakest points on the keyboard. They're basically 0 out of 10, and they are what I'd most strongly suggest changing. The rest of the keyboard is actually really good, but those things do let it down. It seems such a shame to put crappy switches and keycaps on an otherwise so luxuriously fitted keyboard. By the way, if we are going to compare it to the MK06, I think it doesn't look as good. There's just something about the boxy shape and swooping lines on the MK06 that make it pop out. And of course the MK06 is a lot more colourful, but I guess the Smart Touch does look more professional, more like a business keyboard. Plus the screen is way bigger and cooler and more functional, of course. That's going to be one of its main selling points, I think. So at the moment I'm on workstation 2, that's apparently what my computer got assigned to, and this one comes preset with only 3 workstations I think, but in theory it can control any amount of workstations if you have enough switches in between. It's also got a screensaver line that it draws across the screen when it's been inactive for a while too, which you can also change the parameters of. So you can control which workstation you want to use with these 8 S keys here, plus combinations with modifiers. But I kind of wish they'd stuck them all on this side of the keyboard, because now, for no good reason, the position of the F keys are all different, and that's annoying if you're using them a lot, say when you're playing Diablo 2. I know, it's not a huge gripe, but it would have been a very easy thing to do right. An interesting side effect of this keyboard is that it appears to make Windows think that I've got a multi-monitor setup, which I don't. But when this keyboard is plugged in, I can move my mouse off the screen into nothingness, which is easiest to demonstrate if I take a video and stretch it across the screen. As you can see, it just keeps extending. Not sure how that's come to be, but I guess this keyboard's made for the sort of workstation that's surrounded on absolutely every side with monitors. It's heavy as well, 3.2 kilos, about half again as heavy as a typical IBM Model M keyboard, and it's very well built. Of course, the weight is partly due to the size, but it's not actually as big as you might expect. It mainly just looks big, and admittedly it stretches forward a lot, but build quality wise, there's definitely nothing to complain here. Even the ports on the back look rock solid. Overall, it's an extremely cool piece of technology. I can't even begin to imagine what a tech-savvy person could do with the screen. I don't know, maybe run a Nintendo Switch on it or something, but the macro capabilities and customization are beyond pretty much anything on the mass market right now. I am pretty sure you could run this as a Stream Deck or anything you wanted to, basically. Like I said, most of this functionality is far beyond my tech level, but it is pretty awesome to toy around with something like this. I just wish the switches and the keycaps were better, and maybe one or two small improvements here and there. Of course, because this is a customized product intended for the business market, the MSRP is quite eye-watering, upwards of €2,000. So unless you manage to score one second-hand or something, it's unlikely many people will be able to afford it. Or you may get gifted one if you're a crazy YouTuber like me. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.